Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In a recent video that I did, I was talking about how to stay inspired as a designer, and one of the things that I suggested that you do is just to make things for fun. And so that's what I want to cover today in this video. I want to show you different things that I've made just for fun over the years, and I think this could be a lot of fun kind of going through these and talking about some of these designs, and I just want to give you some inspiration and just something that you can practically take away. So feel free to be inspired by these, feel free to directly copy it, do whatever you want with it. I'm just going to show you some different things that I've done in the past. Before we get started, please make sure you are subscribed. It helps me out and I really appreciate it. Alright, this is something I played around with earlier this year, and it's a very simple concept of just pool water, but if you look down in the bottom right corner, it says Summer 96. So that was a very special year for me. That was the year that I was 12, going on 13, and I did a lot of swimming that summer, and we listened to a lot of music. 90s alternative rock was our go-to, and I just have always wanted to capture a feeling in a poster of how I felt about this particular summer. This was a very special summer to me, and I've been making artwork that reflects that summer for years now. But this is just something that I've done for fun, just the pool water with the little Summer 96 down in the bottom right. This was a lot of fun putting together, and it's amazing how much time you can spend simply putting a text inside of a small box. So this right here is a design that I found on Pinterest, and I used it as inspiration for a couple of other projects that use this same color palette. The first one was creating this sun and waves right here for the yellow and the orange, and then I also added in this light blue right here. And ever since I made this, I've been wanting to print this out. Maybe I'll get around to it eventually, but this right here just completely evokes the feeling of summer for me, whether it's being at the pool or being at the ocean. Of course, me personally, I would much rather be at a pool than an ocean. I just prefer swimming in pools. This was another one that I did based on that. It's the number 96 rotated to the side, obviously signifying summer of 96, so this was a fun one to do as well. And then I used that type as a jumping off point to create a very minimalist poster of Are You Afraid of the Dark, one of my favorite shows from when I was growing up. And this is just a black poster with the purple question mark with the simple title at the bottom. Now, I'm not entirely set on the type at the bottom here. I was kind of playing around with some different typefaces for this, but this is something that I've left behind. This was earlier this summer. I have not come back to it since then, but it might be something that I try to come back to and see what I can do with it in the future. And then I was also kind of reflecting on some areas from my childhood. This right here says Antioch. This is where I grew up. And this was based on a poster that I also found on Pinterest earlier this year. I always thought that composition was really cool. And so I just basically copied it and made Antioch right here. And these are the coordinates of Antioch, Tennessee, and then also the year that it was founded. So it was just kind of playing around with some stuff. And then here's the last one that was directly inspired by that color palette. This is Wave Country, a place that I grew up going to, and these colors right here have always perfectly represented summer to me. So it was just a lot of fun putting all of these together. Recently, a buddy of mine told me that he has all of the music that used to play on the Weather Channel back in the 90s, and the first thing I said to him was, "Can you get me that music?" So he sent it over to me, and I was listening to it earlier this year, and it got me thinking about the design and the graphics. I used to look at these when I was a kid, and these actually used to animate, and I thought they were so cool looking, and so I used that as some inspiration for a poster right here. So I recreated the element, and then I came over here and made this right here. It's kind of like a poster of like the perfect day. So today is completely sunny, not a cloud in the sky, absolutely perfect with a low of 80 and a high of 80. In my opinion, that is the perfect day. So I created that based on the Weather Channel. And I went ahead and laid this one down in another artboard, and then just kind of played around with a couple of extra things here with these little squares and an orange background. This right here is a poster that I found on Pinterest, and I adapted it to a Summer 96 poster instead. As you can see, I've made a lot of stuff like that over the years. This is just what I've made this year for Summer 96. Here's another one that I made earlier this year. It's based on a color palette that I put together several years ago of early 90s neon colors. And it's very simple. It's just these circles and these lines kind of connecting with each other. I think this was based on something that I found on Pinterest maybe earlier this year. I'm not exactly sure. of what this is entirely based on. It was probably inspired by something else, but the idea of it was just kind of drawing some circles and then just connecting them together with simple lines and making some smaller and making some larger. Obviously, it's giving the poster some depth. And then I wanted to highlight the specific year that these colors were very, very popular, and that would have been 1990. So just a general composition of this, and then I added in that one blue right there just to give it a little bit more visual interest. I think that it may not work as well as the other colors because the other colors are so vibrant and so saturated that they're not really showing the grain layer that's happening there nearly as much as that blue is. So I may go in and change that back to green, which is what it was originally, but it was just something to kind of play around with it and change it up a little bit. Here's a poster that I made several years ago. In fact, I believe I was in college when I made this, and this is from the show The Adventures of Pete and Pete on Nickelodeon. If you ever watched this show, this was, in my opinion, one of the best episodes. It was the Orange Lazarus episode, and I think the name of the episode was Field of Pete. Anyway, there was a drink that was sold at like the concession stand at the ball field, and it was called the Orange Lazarus. And the guy that worked at the concession stand is the one that invented it, and he always said that it was unavailable because it was too cold. So this was a poster that I made that was kind of like a very minimalist representation of the Orange Lazarus drink. It was kind of like a half an orange there. And the general concept of this was that the top of the type right there was supposed to kind of complete the look. What I was going for didn't really hit exactly, so I just kind of made this wave pattern right here. But then I put the L up in the top right of the poster. This might be something that I go and revisit at some point because I love this episode. I love the whole concept of this orange drink that's too cold that you can't drink it. But one update that I did make was a couple of years later, and it was kind of adding in this straw and then putting in these little seed type of designs with it and then adding a few more colors to it. So I was always a big fan of how this turned out, but I might go back and see what I can do with the original design. And again, I'm still in my Adventures of Pete and Pete folder, so we'll take a look at this right here. This is a Polaris concert poster. Polaris was the name of the band that played in the Adventures of Pete and Pete theme song. So this was kind of a nod to say, like, this is Polaris playing a concert at the Wellsville Garage. And this says January 16th, 1994, which I believe may have been the premiere date of the show. I'm not entirely sure, but that's where the idea of this concept came from. And I always loved how this turned out. It looked like how it was printed on this notebook paper here. I always thought that was a really cool overlay. All right, still sticking to the mid-90s, this is a poster that I'm particularly proud of because this actually caught the attention of the director of this movie. This is the movie Angus, and this right here is representing his science project where he's trying to prove that there is no such thing as normal. I designed this years ago and put it up on my Instagram account, and the director, Patrick Reed Johnson, actually found it, and he messaged me and he said, hey, if you will send me a printout of that, I'll sign it for you, and then I'll also get Charlie Talbert to sign it for you. And so both of them actually signed the poster that I have, and it's hanging up in my theater. And because of that, I'm particularly proud of this particular poster, not just because of the design, but also because it caught the attention of the director and the star of the film. That is just so cool. It made me feel amazing. And even going beyond that, the film is incredibly special to me. All right, and going back to Are You Afraid of the Dark? This is an Are You Afraid of the Dark periodic table, and this is something that I created several years ago. I want to say probably back in 2017 or 2018, and I had a lot of fun with this. And the design of this is all broken down by storyteller, so everything is color-coded by the storyteller. It tells you exactly how many episodes each storyteller told, and then also has some stats over here on the right side. So this was a really fun one to make, and one of my favorite things that I've ever done. So I had a lot of fun with this one. And I promise this right here will be the last Are You Afraid of the Dark thing that we talk about in this video, and I'll just kind of zoom in and show you what this is. This is a collection of different visual representations of each episode of the original series of Are You Afraid of the Dark. So it's kind of a hodgepodge of different design aesthetics, but overall each one represents the respective episodes. And we won't go through each one of these individually, but I'll just kind of do like a slow scroll through all of these. But I really am proud of this design. This was something that I spent each day on. It was kind of like a daily challenge where I would create something, and then eventually I brought it all together into one unified poster. I do have plenty of other Are You Afraid of the Dark designs, but I'll save those for future videos. All right, this right here is for any shoegaze fans out there. This is an Astro Bright concert poster that didn't actually happen. So the image of the girl right here was actually found either on Pexels or Unsplash. I don't remember exactly which one. But she was holding some kind of a stick that was like creating the smoke around her as she was dancing, and I thought the image of that was really cool. So what I did here was create a very multi-layered PSD file. I wish I still had that. The problem is it was around 2 gigabytes, so I had to actually have it as a very large file, and I think that I may have accidentally gotten rid of it at some point. But I wanted to make it look like she was kind of dancing in outer space, and she was holding up a star to kind of dot that eye right there. And the date right here was to kind of represent what it would look like if they did an All the Stars Will Fall tour. So I wanted to make sure that the visual of this had stars in it, and I just love the idea of the girl dancing and dotting the eye with a star. And fun fact, the Astro Bright type right here is their actual logo. I did get this printed out on holographic paper by Cat Print, and it looks amazing. Out of all the posters that I've designed, this is definitely one of my favorites. All right, next up, let's take a look at these badge designs right here. This is when I was going through my Aaron Draplin phase and just kind of seeing how I could use his work as an inspiration to create some of my own stuff. I love all of his badge designs, so I was just kind of putting together some things that were either special to me or things that I thought would look really cool on a badge. And the idea behind all of these was to make a very consistent design throughout. If you know anything at all about Nashville, you might recognize some of these things here, and some of these things have nothing to do with Nashville at all. This might be something that I come back to at some point and kind of revisit and refine some stuff, but I really enjoyed putting this kind of stuff together. All right, here's a poster that I put together several years back. This is of Batman the movie from 1966. If you've seen this movie at all, you know that these kind of vials of powder were an integral part of the plot. So I made like a minimalist representation of those vials. And then we've got the cast list right up here, along with the director at the bottom. This was during a phase where I was going through Montserrat and Gotham and Metropolis, those types of fonts. And then I made a darker version, which I think may actually work better than the lighter version. And a fun fact about this, each one of these colors are accurate to the vials that are shown in the movie. I think I remember just grabbing a screenshot of the movie and color dropping on each one of those. All right, next up is more 90s nostalgia. This is from Boy Meets World, and I think I actually did a video on this maybe earlier this year or last year, but the concept of this is something that I was proud of when I came up with it. So the idea of it is the baseball and the earth, and they're both exactly the same design, but this is just showing how the power of color really changes how you see something. The fact that this is white with those 2 red lines right there, obviously you think of a baseball, and then right here, the blue with the green and the brown right here makes you think of the earth. Even though they're both exactly the same design, one is just rotated and changing the colors makes you see it in a completely different way. And I also did a lighter version, which I think in this case actually works better. Let me know what you think down in the comments. All right, so you saw my periodic table on Are You Afraid of the Dark? Now here is my periodic table on Breaking Bad. I was really late to the party on Breaking Bad, so I created this just a few years ago. And it looks like I need to go in here and make an adjustment. I don't remember this being an issue and not filling up all of the type right there. Obviously, at some point I can go back in and refine that. But I also had a lot of fun creating this one, and of course, being Breaking Bad, a periodic table works really well for this show. All right, this poster right here is for any fans of Opryland, USA when it was still here in Nashville. This is a patent-style poster of a clock meant to be representative of the roller coaster Chaos. And this was something that I had so much fun creating because I actually did create this clock. And the clock actually represents the opening day of the ride itself. So it opened on Thursday, June 15th at 10 a.m. And we also have a representation of the phase of the moon on that day. Here it is right here. This little curved line around the moon right here represents the phase of the moon. And then we also have all the years going around here starting from 1900 to 1999. And it is on the marker of 1989. I'm a huge fan of clocks and celestial art, so anything that's going to allow me to bring those two things together, I'm going to have so much fun designing. This is a poster that to this day I still haven't actually printed out, and I need to do that. Here's another poster that I made right here. It's the roller coaster of the future, Chaos. And let's go ahead and zoom in all the way so you can see all the little things going on here. We got these little sparkles. that are going on right here, and this was a lot of fun to put together. So we've got chaos that's created by these lines right here. This is like a very late 80s, early 90s type of aesthetic that I've got going on here. And then I took the Opryland USA logo and also made an outline of that with those sparkles. This was a blast to put together. All right, let's switch over to sports. I am a big baseball fan and I love the Cubs. So this is a poster that I put together, and it was kind of directly influenced by some of the older vintage type of posters that you would see like from the 1920s. And I just love that type of design. So I put this together using Illustrator and Photoshop, and it was a combination of different elements. If you'd like me to show you how to do something like this, let me know down in the comments below and I'll be sure to do that. And here's another simple design I put together. I think I may have even made a video about this, but it's just Michael Jordan and his number 23. And the color palette right there is the Chicago Bulls colors. All right, and here's another poster that I made that caught the attention of the director. This is from the 1994 movie Clifford with Martin Short and Charles Grodin. I don't know why, but for some reason the aesthetic of the cigarette pack just seemed to work really well for this movie. And the director agreed with that, and he also loved the fact that I put those devil horns on the C and the D right there. I just thought that that fit perfectly with the character of Clifford. And because Clifford is obsessed with Dinosaur World, which is a theme park that is dinosaur themed, I decided to create this graphic right here, which is kind of a stand-in for this little seal. And I posted this on my Instagram page years ago, and it caught the attention of the director, and I always thought that was really cool. All right, this right here is a tool poster that I made not long after I saw them up in Kentucky. And this was a really fun one to put together. It was using a combination of different photos that I found from Unsplash and Pexels. All right, let's zoom in right up here. So I used their typeface for the actual heading right up here, and for the graphics we've got this skeleton, and we've got their 7-pointed star that's laying on top of here, along with some other layers that just kind of give some lighting and some extra dimension. And then everything down here at the bottom is kind of meant to mimic that glass type. But this right here was a lot of fun to make, and I also have made a ton of other tool posters, and I feel like I could make my own video just talking about those. All right, this will be the last one that we talk about in this particular video. I'm definitely going to have to make like a series based on this, but this is a Crash Test Dummies concert poster that I made. I did not make the artwork at the bottom of this. This is actually something that I found, I think maybe on DeviantArt or Dribbble somewhere. I don't remember exactly where I found it, but if I do find the original artwork, I'll be sure to credit the original designer of this. But this was something that I put together, and it really, for me, captured the feel of this particular show. It was just so chill and laid back and just very warm and inviting. And of course the venue itself is also like that. But I really wanted to be able to capture that with this type, and I think that this type really captures it very well. And I just love the colors that are in this artwork. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it was also inspirational for you. Thank you so much for watching to the end. It really does mean a lot to me. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.